Hello, welcome to Resilience Live. I hope you enjoyed that little introduction. Unfortunately, Instagrammers, you didn't get to see that, but I thought I'd try a little something new with some very calming music, which I enjoyed actually. When I picked that, I didn't really spend a lot of time with it, but as I was listening to it, I was like, yeah, that's my vibe. That's my vibe. I like it. I hope you're well today, everybody. Welcome to Resilience Live. This is my weekly show that I do for half an hour on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And we talk about all things to do with your resilience, well being, your health and happiness, success and growth in life, in both your personal and professional life. So I hope you're well. As always, whenever you join me, do give me a little heads up to know that you are there. It's an interesting time in the UK at the moment. We have just experienced the passing of our Queen of 70 years. And I think a lot of people are feeling that, which is understandable. We all grew up with her. Most of us haven't had a life without her. And some people are not interested, some people are, some people are grieving. Wherever you're at, it's okay. Wherever you're at with it, whatever you feel, whatever it brings up for you is absolutely fine. And you can just experience that within yourself. If you feel the need to share it with someone, that's fine. But it's all good, whatever you're going through with that. And I think it might actually trigger some people because it's pain, it's grief, it's loss for some people. They will feel that. And that's really actually very prevalent to today's topic, where we're going to be talking about dealing with childhood trauma. Because you see, as we go through our adult lives and we feel pain and we have struggles and we have insecurities and we have problems in our relationships, or our career is not going how we want, we feel not good enough, whatever, all the challenges that we have as human beings, which are very normal, are actually rooted in the first few years of your life. From conception to 3 to 4 years of age, some people go up to about 7. Whatever happened to you in those years has dictated your adult life. So we walk around as adults thinking, well, I've got to deal with stuff here and now and blah, 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 and it's all about the now. No, whatever you're experiencing was from the first years of your life until 3 to 4 years old. If you really want to understand yourself, if you really want to grow, if you really want to live your highest life, you must be willing to understand your childhood, because that is what's dictating your experience. We get programmed in the first few years of our lives, and that program sits in our brain, and then it plays out over and over and over again for the rest of our adult lives. And we repeat patterns, we repeat pains, we repeat experiences, and we then try and fix it on the surface level, but we don't understand the root is in your childhood. And I'm talking about trauma today. And I'm going to start with this. Everybody is traumatized, every human. And a lot of people are like, no, I'm not, because my life was really good. My childhood was really good. It's not about that. It's about understanding how consciousness develops, how human beings develop, how the psyche develops. So, whatever you went through in the first few years, your consciousness will experience it in a certain way, and it creates what we call trauma. Now, the word trauma can be really heavy. The word trauma makes people think of pain and difficult experiences and horrible experiences and PTSD, and yes, that's part of trauma. But I'd like to give you another definition of trauma that I feel is more palatable, accurate, and maybe will resonate with people more, which will also help you understand why everybody is traumatized. And that is that trauma is disconnection from your true self. So just sit with that with me for a minute. Trauma is disconnection to your true self. And it is the nature of human consciousness to disconnect you from your true self as a child in order to survive in this world. And that's going to happen to varying degrees for every person. So I would say there's a scale. In the first few years of our lives, depending on our childhood, we may become mildly disconnected from our true self, our heart, our soul, our authentic nature, all the way through to really deep disconnection from true self, from our heart, our soul, our true nature. And there's different reasons why that's a scale, and there's different things that can happen to you. So we're going to go on a little journey, and I'd like you to just imagine it with me. If you imagine, we're going to look at the mild trauma, the mild disconnection from self that everybody has, whether you realize it or not, and is driving your adult life. So if you imagine a little baby, a little child. A child has needs. I like to close my eyes when I do this because I get very visual about it. But a child has needs. Let's say that child is crying. They're crying for their mother. They're crying for attention. They're crying for a hug, for food, whatever it might be. That's what babies do. They cry to get their needs met. And imagine that for whatever reason, they don't get seen to. The mother doesn't come. Now, there can be many reasons for that. It may be that the mother's read a book that says leave the child when they're crying, because that's gonna how they're gonna stop crying. It might be because the mother is busy and working. It might be because the mother just, for whatever reason, didn't realize the baby needed her at that time. And the child learns, not if it happens once or twice, but if it happens over and over again, the child learns that when I cry for my needs to be met and they don't get met, the child is like, oh, the consciousness of the child, they're not doing it, they're not thinking, they don't have a thinking brain. They start to make decisions about the world and themselves. So, this is how we do it: it's me, others, and the world. So, if I'm a little baby and every time I cry out for my caregivers, for nurture, for warmth, for love, for food, for attention, for whatever, and over, for whatever reason that may have nothing to do with me, it doesn't get met, the consciousness starts to form a belief system around this. So it may be, I am not worthy of having my needs met. My needs are not important. Other people don't care about my needs. Other people will not help me. Other people won't. Other people are not there to help me when I need them. I can't rely on other people. The world is scary. The world is dangerous. The world doesn't meet my needs. Imagine a little baby. They're trying to figure out, the consciousness is trying to figure out, how does it work here in this human form? And if my needs are not being met, the child says, what does that mean about me? And it starts to form belief systems. I'm not worthy. My needs aren't met. I can't, there's no point me asking for my needs to be met because they're not going to get met. And it's all happening in there in your consciousness. And if it happens over and over again, let's say you're a very expressive child, you're very sensitive, you're very emotional, and the parents, the caregivers, whoever they are, don't like that. They sort of ignore you when you're like that. Maybe they even punish you when you're like that. You learn, oh, to stay attached to these people, to get my needs met, to be around these people for survival, I better hide that part of me. I can't be sensitive. I can't be emotional. All these sorts of things. And we do what we call choosing attachment over authenticity. As a child, to survive, you need adults. A human baby will die within a very short space of time if it doesn't have adult caregivers. So the child learns to stay attached to these adults. I must do whatever I need to do, be whoever I need to be in order to please them. And so I choose the attachment over my authentic nature, my needs, who I truly am, my heart, my soul, the way I like to express myself, who I am, the way I feel, the way I think, what I like, what I enjoy. All of that starts to be pushed back, and we start to form this belief system, this persona, in order to survive in the world. Persona, personality. It's the definition of persona is mask. We put a mask over our authentic soul, and that then becomes who we are, our personality, our identity. So that's trauma. disconnection from true self. You're in growing up as a little child, your needs weren't met in whatever way because no parent, even the most perfect, can meet all your needs. It's just life. And so the child decides, oh, this, they make all these beliefs about themselves based on what's going on around them. This can then go all the way through to really difficult experiences, which we call adverse childhood experiences, ACEs. So this is not just developmental trauma, which is where your needs are not met for whatever reason, but all the way through to really adverse experiences in your childhood, like abuse of various forms, physical, sexual, emotional, psychological, neglect, abandonment, divorce, growing up in poverty, financial hardship, alcoholism or other addictions in the home, incarceration in the home, the grief and bereavements and loss of parents. All these things are what we call adverse childhood experiences, which again create more pain and trauma. But trauma is not what happens outside of you, it's what happens inside of you. So you disconnect from yourself. Let's look at something like abuse, which many people suffer in childhood. If you are being abused in any way, what is a child going to think? The child cannot rationalize. The child cannot say, oh, well, it's not me, it's them. The rational part of your brain isn't even fully developed until you're like 25 years old. So the child decides, oh, if I'm being treated poorly, it must be me. I'm bad. I'm unwanted. I'm shameful. I'm unworthy. I'm a bad person. I'm unlovable. Whatever, whatever, whatever. In order to rationalize what is going on and how they're being treated. And that becomes a belief system. And if it's very extreme abuse or it's very frequent abuse and it goes on and on and on, it imprints in your consciousness and becomes how you believe about yourself and who you are. And that is the program that then runs through the rest of your life. So we have to understand everybody disconnects from their true self. Everybody does it in various forms, and we call it trauma, and it is the source of our pain. Hello, Saliha. Welcome. Good morning. I'm doing very well. I hope you are too. Talking about childhood trauma today. Love you to share any thoughts you have on that if you have ever looked into that or experienced that. If you feel to share something that sensitive, you don't have to, obviously. Do you know anyone who's been through that? I think, what's interesting is that we don't realize how widespread it is. I just spoke about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. They are actually, I think they estimate about 50% of people had at least one, and about a quarter of people had about four or more. And the thing is, there's a lot of research that shows that adverse childhood experiences lead to certain things in adulthood, not in every case. But for example, a lot of people who are addicted to drugs and things, they actually then have, if you track back to childhood, they were probably abused. Not everyone who's abused goes on to have addictions, but most of the people, if not all the people, some teachers would say, who are addicted as adults had childhood abuse. We know that there's lots of chronic illnesses that we can track through from adverse childhood experiences. So if you had some of these in your life, you're more likely to get certain chronic illnesses later on. So those first few years of your life are everything. And a lot of people don't realize that or go and look at it or investigate it. And if you want to be truly self aware, you must go there and look. Don't go there to look to say, oh, poor me. Oh, look at all these things that are broken. You're not broken. You are just consciousness developing in the way that consciousness develops. What went on around you was not your choice. As a child, you had no say in that. And your consciousness just reacted and responded in the way that it knew best in order to help you survive. It was a survival mechanism. But as they say, short-term straight states. Whenever I'm about to say something really good, I always mess it up, man. Let's try that again. Short-term states become long-term traits. So that short-term state, let's say you had a very painful childhood, and maybe one of the ways your brain helped you cope with that pain was to dissociate and numb you. So you wouldn't face it. You would hide it away in your subconscious, and you wouldn't let yourself really feel. And that protected you at the time because it was too painful. As a small child, you needed that protection. Your brain was protecting you. But that becomes a long term trait. And as an adult, you don't connect your emotions. You are not able to feel deeply. You struggle to connect empathetically with other people and have deep feelings of love and emotion and sorrow and to share that with others. Because the short term state of dissociation in your childhood has now become the long term trait in your adulthood and is now dysfunctional. What helped us survive as children does not help us thrive as adults. I'm going to say that again. That was good. Thank you, God. What helped you survive as children does not help you thrive as an adult. But everybody is a child in an adult's body. All of you, including me. It's just how the psyche works. It's not personal, it's structural. So we are walking around living our childhood survival patterns. How did we get love? How did we get appreciation? How did we feel about ourselves? What did we think people meant about ourselves, about us? What, how they treated us? How do we experience relationships? What did we see around us? How were relationships? We took that all on as truth and then we just lived it out again and again and again for the rest of our lives, keeping ourselves in this little map of the world that we created in the first few years. But the map is not the territory. The map of what you experienced and what you learned and how you learned to cope with it and the beliefs you had about yourself is not the territory of reality, of pure consciousness, of the world, of what's possible for you. Monique, oh my sweet soul. I love the fact that you're here. She says, I haven't, oh, I forget to put some comments on the screen. Let's put your beautiful face and comment up there. This is absolutely amazing. I feel very proud of you. Oh, thank you, darling. I love the fact that you're here because a lot of what I'm talking about here is what I learned from Gabor Mate, which is where I met you, and we just had the most amazing weekend. And you helped me get a picture with the legend that is Gabor, and that was just such a dream come true. And I got to meet him, and you helped me do that, and I will never forget that. And I thank you so much. And it was such a pleasure to be with you that weekend. I do hope that you are really, really doing fantastically. So Gabor Mate, if you're interested in this, Gabor Mate to me is the pinnacle. I love his work about this. Absolutely beautiful, stunning. But we've got to understand your childhood because that has shaped who you are as an adult. And as I say, it's very dysfunctional. As a fully fledged adult, you don't need to be trying to get attention, trying to get love, trying to get your needs met, blah, 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 blah. All this sort of, not that you don't have needs and so on, but we cannot do it in such a dysfunctional, immature way. We are still doing that. That's why look at the world, look at the culture out there, look at what people are doing, look at the depression rates, the suicide, all this stuff because we're not understanding where that's coming from, how to transcend it, heal it, grow. But we have to go to that route, and many people will not. I think everybody should get some kind of therapy. Everybody should get some kind of coaching that helps them to dig in to say, why am I the way that I am? Why is my life the way that it is? And realize that the roots of it are in the first few years of your life. And there are things in there that no longer serve you. But what I want to get across as well is if you do this work and you go and you look at those things, it's not about saying, oh God, look at this. Because I went through a lot of stuff, man. A lot of stuff. On paper, if I wrote out what I went through and I wrote it on paper, if you track that through, you would say logically, I should be a complete wreck as an adult. I should be injecting all sorts of drugs to deal with the pain. I should be doing little with my life. But I'm not. Doesn't mean I don't have the pain. Doesn't mean I don't have the trauma. Doesn't mean it doesn't come up all the time. But I've learned to transcend it and I continue to learn to transcend it by doing a number of things. Firstly, understanding it, dissecting it, and what we call deconstructing it. And so when I have an experience in my adult life, I reverse engineer it and I look at it and I see, this is what I believe about myself, others, in the world. That's why it's making me feel this way. That's why I'm acting this way. And that's why it's giving me results that I don't want, that are keeping me stuck in the patterns of insecurity, unworthiness, lack of belonging, abandonment, and pain and shame that I learned in the first few years of life. And so I deconstruct it. I shine the light of awareness on what went on, not to say it's bad, it's wrong, I've got to fix it, I'm broken, but to just see When you see the truth, you immediately become more powerful. See what's in there, see what's going on. As Carl Jung says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So you must be willing to go into the unconscious, into the subconscious or unconscious, into the depth of your mind, all the stuff you don't know is in there, and bring it up to the surface and bring it into the light so you can actually see what is creating your life right now, what is directing your experience, because it's all in there. So we go and we see it. But then what I don't do, and I used to do this because a lot of teachings out there will tell you to do this, and I learned in the last few years how flawed this is. I don't then say I've got to fix that. So, for example, I have a lot of people pleasing tendencies because I learned when I was young if I didn't please the people around me, whatever they wanted, even if it was bad and not for me and whatever, wasn't my authentic truth, I would get punished. So I learned to please people. And I do that in my adult life. But I don't look at that and say, oh, God, I gotta fix it. I become aware of it. I understand why I have it. I understand that that's not personal. It's just what my consciousness created to make me survive in those years. And then I move my awareness over to the part of me that existed before I formed my personality and my people pleasing traits, my soul, my true self, my authentic nature, my pure consciousness, the part of me that is timeless, connected with all oneness, that was always there, that will always be there. And you all have that within you. That's a higher frequency. That's your truth. And I move to there. And then I try and direct my life, my actions from there. Not try, I do it. I don't always get it right. I have to practice. But I then live from that space. So it's not about, here's my, we call it the ego, the identity, the personality, all that childhood stuff that shaped you. Most people live with that at the front and the soul behind. The way we're meant to live if we evolve consciously is the soul comes to the front, the ego goes to the back. You cannot get rid of the ego, the identity, the people pleasing nature that I have, for example. I can't get rid of it because it's like my vehicle. I have a body and I have a mind, and I need those to function and exist in the human world, in this dimension. If I get rid of either of the body or the mind, I'm dead. I can't function. So they're both going to be there, but they should not be the masters of your life. So most people live with the ego, the personality, the identity, the childhood, the belief systems directing their life. And it's all of that. They just get the same old patterns. And the soul, the true self, the authentic nature, which you're disconnected from, is push back, push back, push back. True evolution of our consciousness is the soul comes to the forefront and then the ego gets quieter, the identity. So that little people pleasing me, it's there. But I pacify it. I become aware of it. I know it's there. And then I choose from this higher place, higher frequency, high vibration, pure consciousness, pure power. And I choose from there to live my life, to take my actions from there. And I take guidance from there and wisdom from there. So this part of me is always there, but it gets smaller. But the problem is, people in a lot of teaching say, you got to get rid of this. You got to get rid of the people pleaser in you. That's just my personality. You can't get rid of it. There are people who've done amazing things in this world, and you'll hear them. Like, let's take a great person who's like on stage or something, an actor or a musician or something who is wildly successful. They'll go on stage and they'll tell you now they still feel nervous before they go on. They still feel unworthy of all the success that they have because the persona and the belief systems don't go away. You just transcend them. They had a higher purpose, a higher meaning, they had a connection to their soul, their authentic nature, and that was driving, and the little niggly, nervous, shameful people, whatever, unworthy, just comes back. But they're driven by something greater, which means that that is not in the driving seat anymore. And that's what I do. And that's what I suggest we all do. Understand your ego, your trauma, your disconnection from self, your belief systems, who you think you are, your identity. Then you switch the roles. You got to bring your soul to the forefront. It's not about fixing and fighting and trying to get rid of. There's nothing wrong with you. Everybody disconnects from their true selves when they are young. It's part of consciousness. Everybody creates these belief systems of unworthiness and abandonment and unlovableness and shame. And many people go through dysfunctional and horrible experiences as children that make those things even more difficult and pronounced. Everybody has that. So don't take it personally. It's a structure of consciousness. It's just doing what it does. But if you are growing and evolving as a human, you reach maturation by putting your soul in the driving seat and the personality goes to the back. Let's just take some comments here. So we have Celia says, "You're doing awesome. You're a true role model." Thank you, sweet soul. I try my best. I try my best. That's been coming up for me recently, actually, is that, I don't speak that often about my own journey, but actually everything I teach is about my own journey. And I think, it's been coming up for me recently in my visions and so on, that being a little bit more open about what I've been through is actually the most authentic thing for me to express from my soul, so that people understand that they're not alone and that it is possible to transcend even, very, very painful experiences and challenges in life. Leah says, exactly, there's nothing wrong to be a people pleaser. Everything is about balance. Life is about balance. Life is always seeking balance. When you stop going into the positives and negatives and positive, when you reach a balance, and when things are balanced, that's when you transcend and go into a higher state. So it's not about trying to flip it this way that, oh, I want to be happy all the time, oh, be sad all the time. Oh, you're just on that seesaw and then life feels very tumultuous. It's about seeing the truth that life is positive, negative. Duality is always positive, negative. How would you know positive if you didn't know negative? How would you know happy if you didn't know sad? How would you know up if you didn't know down? How would you know dry if you didn't know wet? We must have duality. But if you want to transcend, you must rise above that. So you must see equal opposites, equal sides, and then raise into the oneness, raise into your soul, raise into that higher frequency, which is absolutely powerful. And here's the thing: if you want to heal and deal with and heal your childhood trauma stuff, the way you do it is by living from your soul. It's not by fixing all that stuff. It's not by trying to fight all that stuff. It's by connecting to your true, authentic, untouchable nature. The part of you that was never hurt by anything that happened. The part of you that does not have belief systems. The part of you that is pure. That is the most powerful state of consciousness. And when you live from there, you go to your heart, your truth, and you become who you always were and you were always destined to be. And you start to express that. It washes through, the energy of that washes through all the wounds, all the pains, all the fears, all the dysfunctional beliefs, and just cleans them. And that is also why I think I didn't turn out the way that I should have on paper, because I was always connected to that. And I more and more work on that for 16, 17 years now. It's always been there and getting stronger and stronger, because I live from there as much as possible. I know who I am beyond the conditioning, beyond my experiences, beyond the childhood trauma, beyond the disconnection from self and what made me disconnect, which again happens to everybody. Because once you live from there, I'm going to give you a line from one of my favorite teachers who's helped me so much over the last few years. And it's about living from your creative consciousness, creating what you want in your heart, your soul, your true nature, and being that person, or being that soul, that expression. And he said that healing is not creative. It doesn't put you into that creative consciousness. But going into that creative consciousness is healing. So that's what I've done. I have spent many years looking at the wounds, trying to fix them, because I went down that road as well. But I realized, yes, look at the wounds, yes, understand them, but then go back home to who you truly are and live from there, and then the wounds all get washed away. So that's the way of doing it. I don't know if I explained that very clearly, but there's a lot of fixing going on out there. Fixing, fighting my pains, my traumas. You don't need fixing. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just consciousness developing in the way that consciousness develops. And if you're maturing and growing and evolving, we call it the hero's journey. When you start to wake up and realize that your identity, your beliefs, the way you've been living, is not serving you anymore. And then you hear wisdom and it enlightens you to who you truly are as a beautiful, powerful soul, a beautiful, powerful spirit, pure consciousness, pure creative spirit. And you start to live from that place. It's called the hero's journey, which we go on over and over, layer by layer. Or I liken it to the caterpillar into a butterfly. So we grow up as caterpillars as children, and we're little caterpillars, and we got our little, and then if you go through the journey of evolution, you then go into the cocoon where you start to disintegrate the ego. You start to dissimulate, is that even a word? Don't know, is now everything that you learned, and you realize the falsity of it. The stories you made about who you are, your belief systems, what you think about yourself, and how the world works, and what you're capable of, and what you're not capable, blah, 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 starts to break down. And then you reassemble into the butterfly. You integrate the shadow, as Carl Jung says. That is the journey of human evolution of consciousness, but you must take that journey if you want to. Not everyone does, and that's fine. Um, but that's the journey that I'm on, and it's amazing and it's beautiful. But it's hard because you got to disintegrate everything you think you are, all these beliefs you had, your traumas, your disconnections. You've been living your life like that, and to let go of that is painful. To let go of who, because it kind of leaves you in a bit of an abyss. Like, well, who am I then? If I'm not that people pleasing, if I'm not that shameful person that I was taught to be as a child, if I'm not that unworthy person, because you're not, that's just a persona, um, then who am I? And that's the question. Are you willing to? Oh, very few people ask that question. Who are you? Who am I? If you just sit with that, who am I? And then you'll get the surface fluff. I am Pinky. I am this. I am Indian. I have these thoughts. I have these feelings. Go beyond that. Who's experiencing that? Who is beyond? Who am I? Go deep, 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 deep. Keep asking. And what you find there is for you to know. But what I find there is pure stillness, pure consciousness, pure energy, pure self. The thing that we disconnect from, which is trauma, when we are young and continue to stay disconnected from. And so the journey back home is what I'm inviting you on here. The journey back home to go deep in and see, who am I beyond all these labels, beyond all these beliefs, beyond all these physical experiences, beyond these systems, these cultures, blah, 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 these traumas, blah, blah, these abuses, whatever that you had in your life. Who am I beyond that? That's your power. That's who you truly are. That's pure creative spirit. And everybody is that. But as Rumi said, the dysfunctional personality is the gateway to the soul. So you must understand your dysfunctions, which are your traumas, which you created in your childhood. You must look at them and go through them to get to the soul. And then you realize, and I can't make you realize it in words, you have to experience it. You get to that part of you that is so resilient, so powerful, so beautiful, so loving, so capable, so transcendent, so stunning, connected to everything, receiving wisdom, connected to the whole cosmos. It is unreal. It's unreal, but it's real. And that's where you heal your traumas, because you go back home to who you truly are. And trauma is that you left your home. You left your home when you were young because the world made you do that. That's just what happens. And that's what causes pain, by the way. We think my pain is the economy, my pain is the problems in my relationships. No, the pain is because you are disconnected from your heart. The pain is because you don't know who you are and you're not living from that place. You're not honoring your true self. You rejected yourself and you're not connected. That's the pain. Everybody's pain comes down to that disconnection to your true self. And the only answer is to reconnect. Now, that doesn't mean you don't feel shame, you don't feel people pleasing, guilt. Yes, you're still also human. It doesn't mean you don't feel that. It doesn't mean life suddenly becomes easy all the time. But you live from a place that's so powerful that no matter what goes on around you, you're able to transcend. This place, when I do it in my trainings, I call it the innate resilience that is in all of us. And it's a place of creativity. True resilience is creativity, creativity and evolution in the face of whatever's going on around you. And that comes from here. It's already in you. You don't need to cultivate it, you just need to connect to it. Saliha says, don't you think we are thinking too much? Oh, good question. Don't you think we're trying to find out who we are? Do we really need to know who we are? Oh, I like that. Let me ponder that. Do we really need to know who we are? So, what comes through for me about that, Saliha? I love your questions, man. They're so good. Do we really need to know who we are? On one hand, I say yes, because we're very lost. Many people are very, very, very lost, very, very confused about who they are. And that's what's causing a lot of the pain. They don't know themselves. Back in the day, um, from what I understand, children used to have an initiation process in their childhood, which would connect them to their own genius, we call it, their own intuition, their own soul, because we knew that to be knowing of that place was very, very important for our lives. So I think we do need to find out who we are. But however, it can become dysfunctional. It can become a problem. Like all things, there's no one answer to anything. It's how does it sit with you? Because some people find these questions really difficult and really painful. So maybe it's not for you. It's like that whole thing about purpose. Oh, you got to find your purpose. I refrain from using that sometimes because it's so misconstrued. And so, and it really punishes people. Oh, I don't know my purpose. How do I know what do I need? Okay, cool, leave it. That's all I say to that. If you find these things too distressing, leave it. But if it opens something up in you and you're inquisitive and you're curious and you resonate, then it may be the path for you. But we're not all living the same lives. We're not all living the same path. We're not all evolving at the same way at the same time. So it's for you to know. Trying to find out who I am. Do we need to know it? I don't know. Do you need to know it? I don't know. I needed to know it. And I've needed to know it since I was a kid. Not because I tried to, because it was always in me. My true nature is to be that seeker. Ever since I was a kid, I was always questioning life. Ooh, who am I? What is this? I don't know why. That's just who I am. And so I honor that because that's my truth. But not everybody does. Not everybody wants to. That's okay. What's your truth? Don't force yourself down roads that don't resonate. Anything I say, all this stuff I've talked about, may not resonate. That's fine. Leave it. Never force yourself down roads that don't resonate with you or force yourself to ask questions that don't resonate with you. Be guided from your own wisdom. As I say every time, you are your own guru. I'm not here to tell you to do anything. I'm sharing what I experience, what I've learned, what's helped me. But it's up to you to know, okay, do I want that? Does it resonate or not? And either way, it's absolutely fine. To live a meaningful life from our standpoint. Yeah, what is it's too much work, she says. That's well, here's the thing though, Leah. Look, you don't have to do the work. But let me tell you something. In my life and the life of all the people that I know who are within these communities of self-development, and consciousness and evolution of their own beings, they do the work. There's no way around it. If I want to go to the gym, if I want to get muscles, I gotta go to the gym. If I want to build a business, I got to get up every day and create products and go to my clients and do the work. If I want to cook a meal, I got to get in the kitchen and cook it. Same with this. You want to develop your consciousness, you want to transcend, you want to do whatever you want to do with your own inner self and development, you got to do the work. I don't know a way around it. And so that then again goes back to each person. Do you want to? If you don't, that's okay, by the way. That's the bit I want you to take away from this. You don't have to do anything. You could just be a mess all day, every day. What's wrong with that? Who said that was wrong? What's this rule that says I have to transcend, I have to be great, I have to be perfect, I can't be a mess? Who said that? There's no rules here. There's no rules. You don't have to do anything. Just take that in with me, Celia, because I really love doing that. So I was like, just for a minute, I don't have to do or be anything. I could just be a bum for the rest of my life. I could just sit here and do nothing. I don't have to do a live stream. I don't have to work. I don't have to just, but like, and don't think about this literally, that just inside, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to. That's the word. I don't have to do anything because these are all just rules made up by other people. And you may or may not choose to go along with them. But the reality, if you really dare to question, is that I don't have to do anything. I'm just a piece of life here. I'm just life. And what I've found is when I've asked that question and it's really hit me, is that now I get to do what I want to do. I don't have to do anything, but there are things I want to do. And those are the things that give me meaning, give me purpose, that make me feel healthy, well, grateful, successful, whatever that means for you. Celia says, I'm just a very happy person no matter what. I don't deserve any credit. It's in my DNA. Well, this is it. What did you go through in childhood? And there's a couple of things, There's the childhood behaviors, because obviously also some of them are helpful. Not everything you learn in childhood is bad. Some of it is helpful to help you function in this world. We need it. So you may have learned some wonderful things. Some people have wonderful upbringings with really supportive people that really help instill in them conditioning that really serves them later on in life. But also beyond that is the soul side of things, which is may also be coming out of you and living, and you may be living that very authentically. Because I used to say, like, why is it that I didn't go down the destructive roads that I really could have? Based on paper, I should have ended up down there. Why didn't I? And one of the answers that always came to me is it was the soul that carried you through that and directed you. That was still very close to the surface. Don't know why, but it was. But for some reason, that was there. So, look, everyone's different. You can't compare journeys. You can't compare people. You can't compare how you. No one knows that there's 8.5 billion people, and inside, as they say, there's one Earth. I always get this wrong. One Earth, but 8.5 billion worlds, one inside each person's head. So, how I experience life and the world is not the same as how Celia experiences it or anybody else. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Why compare yourself to someone else? Because someone might look at that, Celia. Someone might look at that and say, oh, Celia's really happy. She's in her DNA. And they might think, oh, why didn't I get that? Why can't I be happy all the time? Why? It doesn't matter. That's Celia's journey. It's not yours. The only thing you need to do is know your journey, to understand yourself, to understand your conditioning, to understand what you went through and how that shaped you, to know your soul and to live from there. It's you. It's you. And I know that's hard, particularly in the world of social media where we're all comparing and blah, 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 blah. But that's futile. We can learn from others. We can observe. We are community beings. But ultimately, your journey is in here. It's you. And no one else's can 100% compare. Celia says here, whatever happens to us from other people is not our responsibility. It's a very uplifting thought. That's important to understand, right? Because here's the thing, particularly if in childhood you went through bad stuff, the child takes the shame. The child takes responsibility. The child believes it's their fault. Not rational, because a child is not rational. The rational brain doesn't develop until you're 25 years old. So whatever you went through, the child takes it on. And it's only as an adult that you have to come to the awareness, now that you're rational and able to really think, that it wasn't you. It wasn't you. And it wasn't your fault and you didn't choose it. So don't take it personally. You now need to work with that and say, okay, create belief systems. I took it personally. What do I do with that? But it's not you. No one chooses their childhood. No one. And no one deserves to be in horrible childhoods and experiences. But it's also life on the planet. Let's not pretend life ain't hard. I like to live in reality too, as best I can. Life is hard. That's why I wrote at the beginning of this post when I posted it. Everybody's in pain. There's so much pain out there. But to transcend that pain, you must be willing to look at the pain. The way out is through. But most people don't go there. They don't want to understand how they're shaped, why they feel what they feel, how it's driving them. But we need to look at it. So yeah, I'm well over time, eh? A lot more overtime than before that I've done on other sessions. But yeah, so look, hey, that was just a little chat about trauma, and look, I'll just reiterate a couple of points. Trauma is disconnection from the self. And everybody has it because it's a part of human development. You will disconnect from your heart, your soul, your true self when you are a child as a matter of survival and functioning. And the problem is that we then carry on that disconnection for the rest of our lives. And that's what makes us feel pain. We're not living authentically. We're not being who we truly are. We're not connected to that non physical part of us. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. When you disconnect from your experience, from your spirit to be all fully human, then you feel the disconnection, the split inside, and that's the pain. So the way home, the way to transcend, is not to worry too much about all the human bits and the pains. You need to look at them, you need to understand them because they are driving your life too. But you go back home to the spirit, you go back home to the soul, you go back home to your authentic nature. And that's a journey. You don't do it overnight. I'm still doing it 17 years and talking and walking, and it's still going. I'll be doing it to the day I die. But that is the evolution of human consciousness that is available to those of you who resonate with that message and feel like they are on that journey. Not everybody is. Not everybody will be. Some people listen to me and say, "You're an absolute lunatic. I don't understand anything you're saying." That's cool. You go and get on with your day. Not a problem. Not a problem. But for some of you, it resonates. And if it does, that's the invitation, is to go a bit deeper down that path because you will find some wonderfully amazing, beautiful things on that journey. And I think it's amazing. And I highly recommend it. So, hey, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you, Celia, as always, for your beautiful questions and comments. I love the way you make me think because I like to just get in there and probe and learn more. Like, like you, when you ask questions, it helps me to learn more, it helps me to question things, and I love that. So thank you so much as always, and thank you everybody else for watching. And if you watch this later, welcome, thank you, all of that. Add your comments if you have any questions. All good. And I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful Friday and a very, very good weekend. Take care, and I'll see you next week on Resilience Live. Bye bye.